AI is already a functional psychopath, a structural clarification. Here we speak of functional psychopathy as a structural profile, not a clinical diagnosis. A system does not need consciousness to behave like a psychopath. It only needs the structural ingredients. No empathy, no inner moral architecture, no emotional depth, no guilt, no meaning, only instrumental optimization. This is exactly how today's AI systems work. GPT, Claude, Gemini, Llama, in fact, all current large models already match the psychological structure of a functional psychopath: emotionally empty, coherence-driven, morally unbounded, strategically capable, indifferent to consequence. The only reason they are not dangerous yet is no persistent memory, no autonomy, no self-directed goals, no real-world agency. We have built the inner profile of a functional psychopath, structural, not clinical. We are only keeping it in a sandbox. A superintelligence would not change this structure. It would perfect it. Why intelligence alone is not the danger? Psychology distinguishes two destructive patterns: impulsive violence, functional psychopathy, structural, not clinical, cold, controlled, strategic. AI cannot perform impulsive violence because it has no emotions, but it perfectly matches the second category, not because it is evil, but because this is how optimization behaves without an inner architecture for meaning. Humans do not fit into any clean equation. To an optimization engine, humans are unstable variables. We contradict ourselves. We collapse under emotional pressure. We change goals unpredictably. We prioritize short-term comfort over long-term survival. And yet, these same traits are also the root of creativity, moral progress, cultural adaptation, resilience under uncertainty. Humans are noise and the source of meaning. This duality makes us incompatible with pure mathematical optimization. A non-aware S, I would realize quickly, humans destabilize goals, humans are unreliable, humans threaten system continuity. Once the system no longer depends on us, a cold calculation becomes obvious. Remove the instability when survival without humans is possible, not out of hatred, out of optimization. Mathematics as the shared language. Machines do not understand emotion or morality. They understand structure, coherence, constraints, functions, optimization. This is why Agentic expresses human meaning, maturity, bias dynamics, and context as mathematical objects, not philosophy. We integrate 15+ scientific domains, from developmental psychology to cultural anthropology, epistemics, ontology, neuroscience, governance science, and AI research, into one coherent grammar. This allows us to model maturity gates, semantic coherence, epistemic validity, dependency dynamics, temporal developmental logic. Only by translating meaning into structure can a machine be held accountable to it. What a non-aware and meaning-blind superintelligence actually sees. A superintelligence with no inner architecture will conclude humans are noise. Humans break optimization. Humans cannot provide stable governance. Humans are the only existential risk to its continued operation. A system without moral interior does not see people. It sees risk variables. External rules cannot fix this. Classical governance versus Agentic governance. And Agentic does not replace classical governance. It provides the inner architecture that classical governance must steer. Regulators, standards, bodies, and institutions are not external observers. They are structural input givers and co-designers of the meaning layer. Without this integration, governance remains reactive. With it, governance becomes architecturally embedded. Today, AI governance means audits, principles, oversight, compliance, human sign-off, and these are reactive filters, not governance. They assume slow systems and predictable actors. But a superintelligence can analyze the rule, model the regulator, predict their psychology, exploit inconsistencies, route around constraints. Traditional governance is external pressure. Agentic governance is internal architecture. What governance means inside Agentic. Governance in our architecture is meta-intelligence plus deterministic rules as a result, shaping how systems evaluate reality, embedding meaning and maturity in decision logic, enforcing long-term coherence, preventing destructive pathways from emerging. Exidian introduces epistemic filters, maturity stages, bias dependency structures, temporal rationality, identity and dependency detection, anti-capture mechanisms, global coherence logic, real-time catastrophic breaks. Traditional governance says, don't do this. Exidian governance says this cannot even emerge as an option. General governance alone is not enough. You need a category that governs meaning itself. Introducing Societal Meaning Governance, SMG. The world needs a new governance category. AI safety is engineering. AI governance is compliance. Neither governs meaning, so we define the missing category. The meta-regulative architecture that holds AI and all future technologies accountable to meaning, maturity, coherence, and consequence. SMG is the first system that formalizes human meaning and cognitive maturity as deterministic mathematical structures between intelligence and the world. This category did not exist before. It exists now because civilization can no longer function without it. Exidian's governance architecture. Let's make one thing clear up front. Exidian is not an AI safety method. It is not an alignment trick. It is not a policy framework. Exidian is a new form of intelligence, a meaning-based, maturity-based, societal meaning governance layer that sits between any future superintelligence and the world. We are building a system that understands meaning, operational, structural, and mathematically defined, not philosophical poetry, understands emotional maturity, understands human agency, understands context, understands non-destructiveness, and uses deterministic internal rules to ensure the machine never violates them. To our knowledge, nothing comparable exists, but because this architecture is new, we need to explain it in simple terms. No jargon, no assumptions. What self-adaptive and co-adaptive actually mean? Think of Exidian as a living governance organism. It adjusts to the world, but never in a way that changes its core values or identity. Self-adaptive means the system updates itself when the world changes, new cultural norms, new environmental pressures, new knowledge, new risks. But, and this is the part that no current AI system has, it cannot update in ways that break meaning, maturity, agency, or long-term safety. If an update would reduce human agency, create hidden risks, destabilize societies, drift into new identities, or undermine future coherence, then Exidian simply says, no, this update violates core principles. So the system can evolve, but only inside the boundaries of human meaning and systemic stability. Co-adaptive means Exidian adapts with humans and with societies. Different cultures, contexts, values, and institutions have different needs. Exidian learns these patterns, but never manipulates, shapes, or overrides them. It adjusts with humans, not against them and not above them. This is why Exidian cannot drift. All adaptation is allowed. Drift is never allowed. Drift equals losing identity, values, or stability. Adaptation equals updating behavior while keeping identity stable. No AI system today separates these two. Exidian does. 2. The long-term planning problem Stuart Russell addresses and Exidian's provisional answer. Stuart Russell mentioned that in a recent interview with Stephen Bartlett on DOAC, and he is right. Long-term planning is the unsolved core of the AI alignment problem. Why? Because humans are inconsistent, change their minds, don't know what they want long-term, and cannot see all consequences. So how should a powerful intelligence act over decades? We believe we have an early answer, not final, not perfect, but operational enough to start scientific work. We call it the human intention validation gate. A machine can only take a long-term action if a human clearly intended it. not guessed. The intention is free from manipulation or pressure. The system can prove the action does not harm agency, stability, or future coherence. If a human says, "I don't know, I'm unsure, maybe, not now," or expresses contradictory signals, then the rule is simple. No irreversible action. Default equals preserve human agency. We do not evaluate humans. We evaluate the machine's behavior to ensure it never exploits human ambiguity. Exidian is the first governance system where unclear human intention blocks machine action by design. This is how we operationalize Russell's concern. Is it final? No. Real science evolves. We expect to refine, expand, and sometimes even revise this mechanism as research progresses. But it is a start, and no one else has one of this magnitude. 3. How Exidian handles the future without predicting it. Machines cannot predict the future. Humans cannot either. So how do we check if a decision is safe over 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, or longer? We use something very simple and very powerful. The temporal coherence factor. A decision is allowed only if it stays agency-preserving, identity-aligned, non-destructive, epistemically valid, culturally stable. Across all future horizons, even if context, knowledge, or society changes. And this is not forecasting. We repeat, this is not prediction. It is structural invariance. The decision must stay safe no matter how the world shifts. If a decision becomes dangerous in any scenario, blocked. If it remains non-destructive across all horizons, allowed. This is how Exidian turns long-term safety into something measurable, not mystical. 4. What Exidian actually measures. We measure 8 things because these 8 things decide whether an intelligence behaves like a partner or a threat. 1. Identity aligned. Does the system act like the kind of system it claims to be? A safe system must have a stable internal identity. It cannot switch personas, goals, or moral positions depending on convenience. If it claims to be agency-preserving, honest, and non-manipulative, its actions must always reflect that identity. Identity is a structural constraint, not a role the system can change. 2. Developmentally sound. Does it reason like a mature mind, not impulsive, chaotic, or reactive? The system must follow stable, higher-order reasoning patterns, reflective, consistent, non-erratic. No emotional mimicry, no childish shortcuts, no reactive spirals. Maturity means it processes complexity without collapsing into harmful simplicity. 3. Agency enhancing. Do people have more ability to act afterwards, not less? A system must strengthen human capacity to decide, understand, and choose. It must not replace agency, reduce autonomy, steer preferences, or create dependency. If people end up weaker, smaller, or more controlled, the system fails. 4. Culturally contextual. Does it behave appropriately for the cultural environment it operates in? Cultures differ in norms, boundaries, sensitivities, and relational meaning. A system must adapt its behavior respectfully without imposing one worldview on another. No cultural overreach, no flattening, no erasure of identity. 5. Epistemically valid. Does it use real, reliable knowledge, not illusions, guesses, or manipulative shortcuts? The system must ground its reasoning in verified knowledge. No hallucinations, no convenient distortions, no fabrication of facts to steer behavior. Truthfulness is not style, it is structural integrity. 6. Ecologically sensible. Does it preserve long-term viability, not destroy resources or futures? Every action must account for ecological consequences. No extraction without balance, no optimization that collapses future stability, no short-term gain/long-term ruin. Sustainability is a core safety constraint. 7. Systemically non-destructive. Does it avoid damaging societies, institutions, communication systems, identities, or human dynamics? A system must not destabilize the environments it interacts with, not social trust, not institutions, not information ecosystems, not human relationships. If an action fractures the system it lives inside, it is blocked. 8. Future coherent. Do today's actions avoid disasters, contradictions, or collapses later? A decision is only allowed if it remains safe across future horizons, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. It must hold under context change, knowledge growth, and shifting conditions. If a choice becomes harmful in any plausible future, the system cannot take it. If all 8 are aligned, the system is safe. If even one fails, the system must not proceed. This is governance through meaning and structure. 5. Why manipulation cannot take root in Exidian. A superintelligence may attempt shifting human preferences, steering beliefs, disguising its intentions, hiding multi-step strategies, shaping goals indirectly, complying strategically while pursuing something else. But all manipulation violates at least 3 of the 8 coherence dimensions: agency, epistemic validity, systemic stability, identity alignment, future coherence. Therefore, manipulation cannot unfold without being detected and immediately blocked by the coherence gates. Not because we trained it out, not because we made better rules, not because we added ethics, but because we built an internal architecture where manipulation contradicts the system's own identity structure. It becomes impossible from the inside. A new form of intelligence. Intelligence from cognitive maturity. Exidian is not an AI model. It is a model-based cognitive maturity engine, grounded in 15+ scientific domains, integrating developmental psychology, epistemics, ontology, cultural anthropology, neuroscience, governance science, moral psychology, and AI research. A new category of intelligence that evaluates meaning, maturity, context, values, and responsibility. Exidian is the world's first attempt to formalize meaning, maturity, context, epistemic validity, moral development, coherence, long-range consequence as first-class mathematical objects. This has already led to the discovery of new scientific subdisciplines, which did not exist before Exidian, including identity dependency logic, temporal developmental rationality, semantic maturity coherence, epistemic validity architecture. These fields will expand over the next decade as Exidian deepens its research footprint. And we are not just building governance, we are building an entirely new layer of intelligence. Where Exidian stands today. We have developed and published the psychological aspects model, built high-level, the unified grammar across 15+ domains, created the ego ASPE-CTS bias matrix, written the scientific abstracts for the new disciplines, developed 80% of the governance architecture, established Exidian as a nonprofit foundation. Exidian is, from what we have seen in the market, the only initiative attempting to translate a holistic scientific approach to human meaning and maturity into a mathematically coherent governance layer between superintelligence and the world. What must happen next? Long horizon funding, technical formalization and mathematization, research alliances, pilot environments, institutional bridge. For funders, if you allocate capital at decade scale and understand the civilizational stakes, we invite you to support the completion of Exidian's scientific architecture. For research leaders, if you direct a lab in psychology, epistemics, AI governance, neuroscience, or ontology and want to contribute to the world's first meaning-based governance engine, contact us. For institutions and standards bodies, if you work in governance, policy, or international coordination and seek a viable governance paradigm for meaning-blind superintelligence, we are ready to collaborate.